Hey, it's Jolene at Lady of the Huddle. I want to share with you about an experience that I had this past Sunday. An experience that sheds light on the blindness of the false church. I visited 2 weeks ago Sovereign Grace Fellowship of Nampa with a friend, sat through the service, talked with a few people afterwards, and then left peacefully. After that, the pastor sent out an email to the church saying that I was there, that they were concerned about the safety of the church, and that they agree with the excommunication of us, and they agree with our former pastors. I wanted to warn the church that if they do agree with our former pastors, I wanted to warn them of the things that they were siding with. So this past Sunday, a friend of mine and I stood outside on the public sidewalk. I wore a couple posters and we had some flyers available. And we sought to warn the church that if they sided with my pastors, that they were siding with universalism, heresy, divorce, government theft, lying under oath, breaking church bylaws, false weights and measures, oppression, suppression of truth, and spiritual abuse. The pastor got up in front of the church saying that you must have seen these people outside, and they called me a false prophet and a false teacher. And here is what he said about explaining why he thought that. He said, there are 3 marks that you see over and over again in a false teacher. The first is that they bring attention to themselves. And it's because we were standing outside with signs that made me a false teacher. By his own reasoning, posting his picture on the church website, saying that he's the pastor of the church and advertising himself as the pastor of the church would make him a false teacher. But if you think about that for 1 second, you should know that that's not what makes a false teacher. A false teacher is one that teaches false things. 2, he said that because we talked about sex in our letter, that's what made us a false teacher. Quote, sex is a big thing for false teachers, end quote. Well, then by his reasoning, God himself would be a false teacher because he designed sex. He talks about sex in the Bible. Solomon would be a false teacher for writing Song of Solomon. So that's absolutely ridiculous to say that talking about sex makes us a false teacher. It's what you say about sex. Is it truth or is it a lie that would make you a false teacher? Add to that all the distorted views that the church does teach about sex. We literally had pastors coach a friend of ours that it was okay for him and his wife not to have had sex for 4 years, and coached him to be content with that. But that's absolutely horrifyingly disgusting to coach people in that way. Sex is something designed for marriage. It's healthy and it's good to do very often. It's a way to connect and be glued together. It's a way you are one with one another. So to talk about sex is not wrong. You must teach rightly about sex. The third reason he gave for us being false teachers is that we have a preoccupation with money. Do you know how many times Jesus talks about money in the New Testament? ChatGPT said that 16 out of 38 parables deal with money, and there are more than 2,000 verses in the whole Bible teaching about money. God himself would be then called a false teacher, which is obviously ridiculous. It's not the fact that you teach about money, it's what you teach about money that would make you a true or false teacher. So to make you a true or false teacher, you have to consider, do you teach truth or do you teach lies? Do you align with the Bible or not? The church made other false claims, such as that they had warned us repeatedly. The Bible talks about warning someone twice, and if they don't listen to you, have nothing to do with them. But when did the church ever warn me repeatedly? They gave me 1 trespass notice without explanation, without conversation about what they thought I said or did was wrong. Usually if you warn someone, you try to say, hey, here's what's going on, and here's what we think is true, and here's where we think you are wrong. But it was literally just a, please don't ever come to our church again. So, based on all this evidence that I have seen, this church is proving itself to be a false church. And the pastor is proving himself to be a false teacher. He's literally telling his congregation that it's wrong to talk about sex and it's wrong to talk about money. And that is simply not true. Those are topics talked about in the Bible and important for people to understand and to learn about. My husband and I are the two witnesses in the book of Revelation, and we seek to speak truth. Truth confirmed in the Bible, truth confirmed in creation, truth that brings the glory of Jesus Christ. Come, Lord Jesus, come. Read about it in our full letter at bit.ly, bit.ly/10 July final.